Lovely good afternoon. Time now for News at 12. Let's look at the top stories. Political parties cautioned against resolving internal wrangles in public. A policy think tank warns of Zambia's possible economic downfall. Civil society groups in Gabon fear unfairness in August elections. We have the details shortly.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chol. We're from Cho's Fitness Gym. We're a fully functional gym located along Twin Palm Road in Kablonga, right by Cheshire Homes Society of Zambia. So we have various classes that happen from Monday to Friday. We have aerobics, we have boot camp, we have step aerobics, we have spinning, we have kettlebell classes. They happen from 18 to 19 hours every day, and we are open from 06 until 20 hours. That's Monday to Friday. Then Saturdays 6 to 12, and then Sundays we are closed. And most public holidays we are open 6 to 12.
Living in a wonderful country full of opportunities for investment in property. Make sure your investment is guaranteed. Are you in the process of buying or selling land or properties? Don't waste your time and money. Contact SGK Property Company on 0966 610755 or 0762 166018. SGK, a company that will conduct due diligence for you before you purchase any property. Go for a tried and tested genuine company in Zambia. SGK Property Consultants.
The Zambia Institute of Policy Analysis and Research has opposed the central bank's decision to increase the statutory reserve ratio by 2.5% basis points in an effort to contain the depreciation of the Zambian kwacha. ZIPA Executive Director Dr. Harry Kimpuka says considering the prevailing economic challenges, doing so will squeeze liquidity out of the already tightened market, thereby negatively affecting the private sector. Dr. Mpuku says what government should have instead done to stabilize the local currency is look to other alternatives such as the open market operation and the monetary policy rate. Dr. Mpuku has since advised government not to adjust the policy rates upwards in its next policy announcements, adding that doing so completely shuts the private sector, which would lead to some business closing.
With the Zambian kwacha having been one of the best performing currencies in the world next to the United States dollars in the year 2022, the last 3 months have seen the currency come under pressure, which has prompted the Bank of Zambia to act by revising the statutory reserve ratio upwards by 2.5 percentage points. The Zambia Institute of Policy Analysis and Research ZIPA Executive Director Dr. Eric Mpuku has since explained the meaning of the revising of the statutory reserve ratio upwards.
When they impose a statutory reserve ratio, this means that a significant portion of the money which is held in the commercial banks has to be transferred to the central bank and frozen there. So in this case, we are moving to 9% of what is held in the bank, and then that moving to 12%, which is now being held in the central bank, which means that this money is not available for lending. It's no longer available for lending, it's frozen in the bank.
The Institute has since opposed the decision taken by the central bank to revise the statutory ratio to 11.5% from 9% in an effort to contain the depreciation of the Zambian kwacha. Dr. Mpuku says doing so will squeeze more liquidity out of the already struggling economy, which will lead to the collapse of the private sector as they will have no resources to spend. He has cited that in 2019, when a similar decision was taken by the central bank, despite having stabilized the local currency as intended, the lending rates were adjusted upwards while the country went into recession.
What we are saying, if the private sector is not able to borrow for productive activities, that means their contribution, their output is going to diminish. So what we expect is a further reduction or a slowdown in the growth rate of gross domestic product.
The institute has since advised the central bank in its next policy announcement not to increase the lending rates, further calling on the central bank to look to other monetary policy toolkits such as the open market, reserve requirement and the monetary policy rate.
But raising the MPR, the statutory reserve, now that is really a very tight squeeze on the. We don't believe that a tightening of the MPR is appropriate, just as we don't believe that raising the statutory reserve ratio at this stage is necessarily appropriate. What the economy needs, while we've been very successful on the containing inflation, we need to be easing up to allow liquidity, to allow for a lower cost of borrowing, so the productive system in this country can be rejuvenated.
With the private sector credit rating having been downgraded in the second quarter of 2022, coupled with a tight liquidity being caused by upward adjustment to the reserve ratio and anticipated increase in the monetary policy, the private sector is on a ticking time bomb which might explode at any time, thereby leading to some businesses collapsing and subsequently the collapse of the economy. The institute has since advised the government to stop the dependency on copper and diversify the economy, as well as embrace value addition in the soonest possible time. Prudence Jota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Southern African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, SACOD, has urged political parties to consider solving intra-party wrangles behind closed doors to avoid divisions. In an interview, Mr. Chembe says the ongoing wrangles within the Patriotic Front, which is the largest opposition political party, are threatening its very own existence. The PF is currently in intra-party wrangles after PF presidential hopeful Maus Sampa dragged Given Lubinda and Nixon Chilangwa to court for illegally occupying positions after he was suspended from the party.
Zambia is one of the few African countries on the continent that can boast of having a thriving democracy, as it has successfully held 7 general elections, with 3 of these resulting in a change of political parties. The survival of the country's democracy has been kept alive by a strong political opposition force working alongside the media and civil society to hold the government of the day accountable. The August 2021 general elections saw the then largest opposition United Party for National Development UPND ascending into office and the then ruling Patriotic Front PF becoming the largest opposition party. The intra-party wrangles that have gripped the largest opposition party have however concerned the Southern African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, SACOD, who through its executive director Boniface Chembe states that these wrangles threaten the unity of the party. Wrangles have been ensuing in the opposition party, premised on disagreements emanating from the party's constitution, with some party members being dragged to the courts of law. Mr. Chembe feels that political parties should be able to solve such disagreements among themselves to ensure that opposition political parties remain united for the sake of protecting the country's democracy, which needs a strong opposition to offer alternatives for the Zambian people.
It is important that they address their wrangles behind the closed doors, and that when they do so, this is done in a genuine and honest manner. They have to make a very serious decision in terms of whether they want the party to survive or not. And if the decision is to make the party survive, then difficult decisions have to be made, compromises have to be reached, give and takes have to be arrived at, because not everyone will get their way.
Touching on matters of the pending referendum on the Bill of Rights, the SACOD Executive Director feels that holding the referendum ahead of the 2026 general elections will leave room for sober decisions to be made, as the matter will not be politicized. Minister of Justice Mulambo Haimbe has been indicating that the ministry is engaging cooperating partners to ensure that the referendum is held, which will also include social, economic, as well as cultural rights.
As you know, the expanded Bill of Rights seeks to bring into the picture socio-economic as well as cultural rights, in addition to political rights that we have in our country. So in order for us to make democracy beneficial to the people, we have to be able to explain, yes, it is costly, But unfortunately, democracy is a costly venture. The day that Zambians will say we don't want democracy, then we can begin to reflect on other things other than cost. But as long as Zambians are very steadfast and very committed to saying that we want democracy, we must ensure that we put aside and prioritize resources for the right undertakings that seek to benefit our people.
The SACOD executive director asked that while the venture of holding a referendum is costly, it is a necessary move that must be taken to ensure that the Bill of Rights is tailored to the needs of the Zambian people. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
School-going children at Kasenga Deni Primary School in Chongo District are walking distances of at least 2 kilometers to access clean drinking water after the only hand pump at the school stopped working over 8 months ago. Kasenga Ward Councillor Bright Sacholi says while the school has 2 water taps, the supply is erratic, often leaving the pupils with no water. He states that the hand pump needs urgent renovation to safeguard sanitation at the school.
Water, which is one of the basic human needs, is still a challenge in most rural areas, and not even schools are spared. This is the problem currently prevailing at Kasenga Dene Basic School in Chongwe District of Lusaka Province, leaving pupils having to source water from a stream located about 2 kilometers away from the school, when water cannot be accessed from taps at the school. Area Councillor Bright Sacholi says the situation has been worsened by the lack of a hand pump at the school as it got damaged a few months ago.
So it's a big challenge, not only to the school going, even the teachers surrounding this area. So it's a major challenge. And then what transpired to this borehole is that it needs the pipe to be repaired, I think 15, and also the roads. That's why you can see it's not even... so that's the major challenge which we are facing according to our this borehole. When water goes, the challenge are a lot, because where they draw water, sometimes it's the streams where the water is passing, and as a result sometimes you might feel our school-going children, they can get disease.
He has also noted the need to ensure that the school is renovated, stating that just like many other schools, the basic school has dilapidated infrastructure, inadequate school desks, as well as school stationery.
As you can see, I think we have how many blocks? Just 3 blocks of classrooms, and 3? Yeah, just 3 blocks of classrooms, and they are not enough. And looking at the number of our students which are enrolled at this same school. And then coming to the desk, yes, we don't have adequate desk for my school. That's why if maybe you go for the classrooms, you notice that there are some of the students which are not on the chairs. Why? Because we don't have that enough of desk.
The councillor hopes that these issues will be resolved soon, with his highest concern being that of water availability to promote sanitation at the school. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Chongwe District.
In our international news, Chad Monday began trying 150 rebels accused of causing the death of President. The trial will take place in Klesom in a high-security prison, a local news website reported, citing judicial sources. The suspects belong to the Front for Concord and Change in Chad, the rebel movement which launched an offensive to overthrow Chad's government for its rare bases in Libya in 2021. They are being charged with terrorism, enlisting child soldiers, undermining state security and assassination of a sitting president. Meanwhile, groups representing civil society groups and clergy in Gabon say they are being excluded from talks in preparation for presidential elections in August. Here's a roundup of international news.
Chad will on Monday begin trying 150 rebels accused of causing the death of President Idriss Deby. The trial will take place in Kilesum in a high-security prison, a local news website reported, citing judicial sources. The suspects belong to the Front for Concord and Change in Chad, the rebel movement which launched an offensive to overthrow Chad's government from its rare bases in Libya. They are being prosecuted for terrorism, enlisting child soldiers, mercenarism, undermining state security, and the assassination of a sitting president. Idriss Deby was killed on the front line in April of 2021 while overseeing the army's operations to drive back the rebels. he had just won a new mandate in a vote criticized as fraudulent. With the help of France, Chad's new military rulers were able to stop the rebel advance.
Talks ahead of Gabon's presidential election in August are set to begin on Monday, with vivid memories of 2016 when the poll was marred by violence and the raiding of the headquarters of the main opposition candidate. Citizen campaign groups and religious leaders were not invited to the meeting. The government did not appreciate the tone of the bishops, he says. They spoke in the presence of the Vatican representative and the civil society, which has always been critical of the management of public affairs and their organization. These two components are an obstruction to the debates that will suffer, the elections and the debate that will open between the two parties. When you look at the composition of the government and the opposition, these are people who know each other. Maybe they don't want the church and the clergy to be able to intervene to stop them from doing their thing. Although absent from the discussions, civil society activists are clear about the points they believe would help to improve electoral governance, elements they hoped would be included during dialogue. We need to review the electoral law, he says. We need an impartial election organizing body. You followed the election of the president of the Electoral Commission, who was a member of the government who was elected. This does not bode well for the organization of elections. Mark suggests this position should be held by a neutral person, such as a member of the clergy.
We end the news at 12. We look at the headlines once again. Political parties cautioned against resolving internal wrangles in public. A policy think tank warns of Zambia's possible economic downfall. Civil society groups in Gabon fear unfairness in August elections. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.